see where to start. I'm going to do this today. Allow me to get this whole corner of the shop back. That's been sitting on the floor for a couple months. I described to a friend of mine, I said, hey man, he's like, yo dude. And I'm like, so it's a tube. I say, hey man, you wouldn't happen to have one of these sitting around your shop that's not in too horrible a shape that I could completely pull a resto mod off on, would ya? You guys know what this is. I know what this is. It's a giant bag of dicks. But this is an la-900. These things are something else. For their time, they were off the charts revolutionary. I mean, you got to think, when these were produced, the best that we could do as an amp building industry, generally as a whole, is like the Texas Star thing, okay? So with this many transistors, 1 pushing 4, all right? 1 2290 or 2879 driving 4 2879s. The best we had in this universe was the 667. At least that's the way it was around here. Okay. And that 667, as much as guys like it, honestly, the thing is a freaking turd in comparison. So like here. You guys have seen this one in the last couple of videos pretty good. Okay, the Godzilla 1x4 or 2x4. Yeah, 2x4. This thing makes, if everything is perfect, and it's really hard to get everything perfect. And I mean, if everything is perfect, you get 1300 watts out of this box. It's commonly accepted if we get around 1,000 out of one of these. And peak, we're measuring peak now, you guys. You're doing pretty good. A 667, you're lucky to get 7, maybe if you really juice it pretty good, 800 watts out of it. Okay, same transistors. The core, the engine, it'd be like the small block. You know, 350 small block. Homeboy over here's got the 667, the small block that makes 380 horse. And then another dude comes along without doing any modifications to the motor whatsoever, just changes the fuel injection system, all of a sudden he's getting 580 horse out of it. Well, it's the same analogy. You know, 667's coming along. It's got kind of a crappy infrastructure that sits around the transistor, and so it's only able to do X amount of watts. Well, you know, the other builders, as we like to refer to them as the camps, come along and they develop a little bit better technology. All of a sudden we're able to almost double the output power of the transistor because we're now hyper monobanding it, right? Well, in between, this came on the radar, this little guy. And I remember thinking when I first saw one of these when I was a young man, going from the 667 world to this, I was like, damn. I mean, this is a 300 watt output increase over the 667, these la-900s. 300 watts, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot. From the same base components, it's half the footprint, it's got fans on it, it's got all the functions of it, and it's built like a tank, right? I go over all of this, and you guys know all of this. See, unlike me, you guys have had the chance to live through all of these iterations and these increases in power output. Okay? As a kid, I was like, man, that's some cool shit right there. I don't give a crap who you are. That's some cool ass shit. Look. Tin's a little beat up. I can fix all this. I got this technology. That's no problem. Heatsink's a little dirty. I got that technology. The board I have made worse work better. You know what I mean? I've had some incredibly crappy shit come through here. This board is in great shape. Now we're missing a couple of the small pieces like coax connectors, the plastic grommets in the back. We're going to change all that shit anyhow. Come on, you guys. It's me. I'm going to put my own little twist on this thing. But at the end of the day, this thing was friggin' awesome. And I got guys out there that desperately want these things. I got one dude that has called me now for like 2 months. He's like, man, you said you were going to find me a Texas Star or a TX 800 or 900 or LA 900 or LA 800. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on it. So I called up my buddy. He freaking dug me one out of his scrap bin down there because, you know, he bought it and pulled the pills out of it and scrapped the rest of the box, threw it all together and threw it up on the shelf. And I'm like, hey, man, can I have one of them? He's like, oh, yeah, no problem. So we had a box of stuff coming up here anyhow, and he threw it in with that. So here it is. Now, my mission, as I see it today, is to take this ball of garbage, because that's basically what it's been turned into, and turn it back into something totally cool and kick-ass. So I've got to come up with enough strain relief rings for the switches. I've got to redo the power wire. There's a couple other little things in here that need to get fixed. And I'm always killing this resistor. Every single time. Drive, overdrive it. Let's get started. Let's get this party started. I always said, if you're going to start with something, start with a good foundation. So, it means all this stuff here, this rusted, busted ass hardware, throw that away. Let's get our day started and let's plug in our soldering irons. So, what we've done is we've stripped the amp down to its basic essentials. We're just going to start over because it's dirty on multiple different levels. And, yeah. This is going to have to get washed, like mechanically, physically, Emmanuel labored washed. The heatsink is filthy. Isn't it amazing what sun does to anodized coating? I mean, that's what it looked like originally, and that's what it looks like after being sitting out in the sun. So, let's first remove this thermal compound from the heatsink. Let's give the heatsink a good rub down. And I like putting a paper towel across it because it'll tell me if there's any high spots. Even the anodized coating is coming off a little bit. It'll tell me if there's any high spots on the transistor foot, like in this area, which there obviously is none. So we'll take and we'll wash that. We're going to wash this thoroughly, and then we'll heat it up to drive all the moisture out of it, and then we'll go and we'll shoot this down with a layer of wax to keep it from, I mean, this is just surface rust. See what I mean? Keep this from rusting. And then I'll sit out here and because I don't have any more of these fans, unfortunately, I will clean these fans by hand and make them so they're all nice and pretty again. We'll get all this crud taken out of here. And I'm going to leave the face plates relatively alone because they're in relatively good shape. I'm sure if I put some wax on this will come right back and it'll look like brand new. So, and then we'll have to, well, let's just go ahead and do this now. These are the holders for the LED. Just that's funny. It just disintegrated. So we'll put new LED holders in there. Okay, let's go give this thing a bath. Out through the hole. At least it's been a quiet day on the phone for the most part. For the most part. I wish you guys could understand how hard we are, or how hard of a time we're having just to get basic parts. Resistors, capacitors, that kind of stuff these days. I feel like half my day is spent just chasing parts. Some days. You know, everything has gone way up in price, right? Including these screws that I'm putting in here right now have gone up in price. I mean, it's getting out of sight. And the weird thing is, the phenomenon I see taking place is like, I gotta pay a fortune for the parts, but the end consumer, you guys are not seeing the increase. It's weird. It's just weird. I don't understand. So, you know, if it costs, let's say I put a pill inside of a box, it costs $250, right, for Toshiba. HGs have gone up in price, by the way. They went up in price last month, quite a bit actually. And it's like you guys don't want to pay. Well, I can go get a 16 pill for, you know, $2,800. Yeah, but I got $2,800 in parts in it. It's just weird. The market is changing. I've seen this 3 or 4 times since I've started doing this in the last 12 years. I started 12 years ago, started the business 10. Yeah. Last 12 years. I remember when nobody would believe that the Toshiba was going to get so expensive. Well, here we are. Stupid expensive, you know. Want to keep going, but let's look at this project, for example. I've got painting, I got cleaning, I got hardware, I'm going to have transistors, I got, you know, the grace of God, I happen to have the right bolts to finish this project, or not bolts, but nuts to finish this project out for the switches, because the switches don't have any of the right nuts on them. So I know what's actually correct, because here's my la-900. And I guess it's mine now, I don't know. This guy, Mr. R, sent this thing up to me 4.5 years ago. It's been repaired now for 3.5 years. And his phone number is now disconnected. It goes to some kid that has no idea who he is. I've sent letters to his address. I can't seem to get a hold of him. I can't sell this. It's not mine to sell. You know what I mean? This belongs to a guy. You know, I refer back to that story. Well, I had a 24 pill here that was here for 3-4 years, and it just sat here. And then the guy just showed magically. So I think this dude's dead. To be honest with you, and I think I got a couple transistors and a bunch of labor on this. So I guess this is mine. I mean, I don't want it to be mine, but I guess it's mine. I guess, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. So the idea is to make this look like this. And we're going to get there. I'm glad I got this as a reference. I mean, it's just sitting here chilling. No, let me save you guys some time. I don't care how much money you call and offer me, I'm not selling this. I've had several people, I've done several videos and YouTube, Facebook posts about this particular amp, and every single time I say, hey, you know, I got one sitting here, it's not mine to get rid of. It's just not mine to get rid of. So it's going to sit here. I should probably wrap it up in cellophane because it's getting kind of dusty. And I did everything with this one that I'm doing with this one. Took it apart, cleaned it, made sure all the parts were in the right place. Yeah. This is a very, all in all, very interesting business. So, continuing on, as my mother used to say, if you're going to build a house, make sure it's got a good base. So, I've cleaned and polished the millionth of a degree out of this thing, and I'm really tickled with how well this cleaned up. Now, don't kid yourself. There might have been some painting that went on here. But that's all part of the process. So now, let's reattach our fans. And let's start talking about putting this thing all the way back together so it can eventually move on to some other place than here. I mean, it takes a lot of time. This has taken half the day to get this far, if not almost the whole day to get just this far to where we're at this point. Because I'm in here cleaning out every single heatsink fin by hand. So first you wash it, then you scrub it, then you blow dry it. As in like, air hose, blow it out. Then I go set it in a electric toaster oven. I've got cranked way down to about 120, 130 degrees. Let it sit in there for about a half an hour, and that's every one of these parts. And we do that to drive out the rust. Then we go through and we sprinkle a little bit of primer on some stuff that needs to have primer put on it, and then we repaint it. That's so we don't have rust. Because you can squirt paint on the thing, but then we'll come back in 6 months and things all rusted and looks like ass. You know what I mean? And I don't know what this thing got into. I don't know what cleaner got sprayed into it. Man, did it leave some weird oxidization in this thing. So mostly soap and water was used to clean this. While we're here, we'll just go ahead and shove these through. I mean, this is just simplicity at its best. This is a Teflon tube, PTFE tube. No grommets, no none of that's needed. We're just going to run the PTFE tube, and I think this was made in 1995. This was made 1 year after I graduated from high school. God, if I would have gotten into this then. Can you imagine what I could have done with this if I would have gotten into this back then? Whew. Lord have mercy on the radio world. That would have been something else, wouldn't it? I think it would have been. So now we've got a perfectly cleaned up, restored base. We've got a great foundation that we get to build upon. Moving right along here. So the board inside this thing floats, and what holds it steady is the transistors. And they never put anything in here as an insulator. Now, every once in a while I've seen these show up and they've got a piece of cardboard in them. And it floats in here, usually around this back section by the relay. And the thing I don't like about that is you got this screws that hang up, and unless you know about it and you're pulling up on stuff when you're putting the transistors in, you could have a problem with a short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put me some rubber in here, some mastic material, which is kind of a fiberglass reinforced piece of rubber. Mastic is used in the construction world for sealing around windows. And it'll help hold the board up and provide a little thin layer of insulation. Now, I think back to when I was a younger man, in my tween years, my friend Kerry, I watched him do this. He's like, yeah, on some of these polymers, the board will flex down and it can short out. So we figured out a long time ago, you just cut some cardboard and he'd cut up like a Fruit Loop box or whatever and stuff it underneath the board. I was like, huh, that's interesting. I was like, why didn't the manufacturers think of that? And then I learned later on it's just because they just didn't give a shit. I mean, just putting it out there bluntly. And the manufacturers, they didn't care. Those type of amplifiers are such just slimed out, quickly assembled. I refer to them as truck stop amplifiers. You know? So whatever we put in here, we don't want to come in around our final transistors, and we don't want to come in down here around our driver. So yeah, I should throw a piece of cardboard in here just in remembrance of my friend. That'll help, like a bucket. Okay, so now, let's grab this. And once we get the amp assembled, this will no longer do anything for us, but in the interim, we'll take America's favorite insulating non-conductive tape, built for the Apollo missions, developed by DuPont, later perfected by 3M, and put us on the moon. Captain. Cat. Yeah. Half the lunar lander was put together with this stuff, I swear. And it's still very ubiquitous. It works great. I mean, there's different levels of it, different qualities of it, different thicknesses of it and stuff, and it just works fucking phenomenal. Okay. Now that we've got all of this prepped and put together and it's all pretty again, we've got really good bass, got a really good foundation laid out for us. Let's check our LEDs. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. The reason I want to check the LEDs is because they are a freaking booger to change once we get this thing back together. If an LED goes bad, you're in here trying to do microsurgery around a bunch of wires and stuff. And to give you an idea what the inside of this thing looks like when it's completed, I popped the lid off of my 900. So imagine trying to get a soldering iron down underneath here and not mess nothing up without taking the whole thing apart. I'm serious now. Yeah, nah, a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I can take a second and we can pre-check the LEDs before we do this. Oh dear God, help me not screw this up. Okay, here we go. Oh, see now, I want to resolder the power leg. It's looking a little sketchy to me. The leg that comes on the LED for the on indicator. Or is it the on indicator? What the hell does it go to? Transmit light. There we go. And these others look like they're a little sketchy. Okay, that's the one that goes up to the heat light. All right, which is a dumb circuit in this box, by the way. Now the way they're set up on the stock 900 is they have them very carefully positioned for the proper depth so the switches don't hang out that far. Damn, I love these heavy duty rockers. God, that's to me, this is the way this is. You should have man, you know. So we'll set these up for about halfway. There. Okay. Oh, that I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. May I fear no evil. Because I am the baddest FM walking around. Okay. See, am I at least in frame? I am not. I only get one shot at this. Make sure we got our exposure right. Okay, we're good. One, two, three, four. Okay. Now we're going to carefully slide. Have I said in the last 5 minutes how much I hate taking these damn things apart? And it just broke the leg for the transmit light. Just go. There we go. Jeez almighty. All right. When in doubt, brute it in there, right? Brute force. Okay. There we go. All right. That LED's not all the way in the holder. There we go. If anybody says, oh, it's easy, they're flat out lying to you. Let's get our switches orientated in here now. I just spent the last hour looking for a part, one part. So this amp over here has got some stuff in it that I'd like to put into this amp. One of the things would be this. The relay, we've mounted into a socket. And before I got this all bolted down, I wanted to see if I had another socket, because I wanted to swap this out so I could change the relay out. It's the little things that most people don't ever really think about. Like, when the contact points on your relay start to get dirty, do you really want to muck around with pulling the relay apart and getting in there and cleaning them? No, pull it out, throw it in the trash, put another relay in it, right? Right. Well, a lot of people don't want to pay for that freaking relay mount, which they're there for a reason, you know, but I couldn't find the exact mount to work for this relay, unfortunately. We're all bolted down, and our fans are all hooked up, and our thermal cutouts all hooked up, and everything's hooked up. The only parts we got left to put in are the transistors, the power wire, and then in theory this thing should run. And I went over it pretty tight before I slapped it together. I think I'm ready to put the pills in it and put the power wire in it. I think. I'm going to wash it first. It's dirty on the inside. There's some flux and stuff down here that I want to get out of it. See if we can get this cleaned up a little bit. Turn this sideways and I'll show you what I mean. There's a lot of heavy flux and stuff that's left over from the pills being pulled in and out. This is just like every other amp on the face of the earth. It's had the parts changed in it 15 times. Well, my buddy's got one of those, and if I drive it like this, it'll do 1,005 watts instead of 1,000 watts. And that 5 watts is going to make the difference between somebody hearing me and not. We're missing all the caps on the output section. That's no big deal. We're going to come back. We're going to replace those with metal clads. I'll clean up the ferrite beads, but yeah, damn, that thing's looking good. I mean, it's looking real good. So I'm gonna go spritz some alcohol on it and see if we can get some of this flux to come out of here real quick. Okay. Oh God, long day. Long day. So we got the pills in, we got the flybacks in, we got our capacitors in, we got most of the parts that we need to make this thing run in the amp at the moment. But what we don't have is a positive distribution network, and we're going to fix that here in a minute. So we got our ground wire in. This should easily do the job. But before we go any further, I got to create this. So we're going to capitalize on some stuff here. What I mean by that is we're going to capitalize on the fact that Teflon wire is stiff and strong and puts up with heat. We're going to capitalize on the fact that, well, not capitalizing, but I got to recognize the fact that the Teflon is needed here. We need some fairly stout wire. We're going to use Teflon with our standard oxygen-free 8-gauge stinger. We're going to mold all this into one giant, beautifully hand-wound, like I'm tying fishing flies, joint to help carry the current. But this box runs a little hot. I always have. So we've got to have a really strong mechanical connection. But then what we hook up to, the wires that we hook up to everything, have got to be able to put up with heat. And we got to create ourselves a joint that is somewhat vibration dampened. So we've got 3 pieces of Teflon 12 summed together, and then on turn I wrap that with copper. That joint's never going to come apart. I don't care how hot we get this son of a bitch. I mean, if you get this joint hot enough to where it's going to fall apart, we got other problems going on inside this box. Like, it's the least of your problems. So let's go ahead and let's get this laced in here and let's get this down, because we're like this close from being done. I am literally sitting down to shoot the video, or to render the video on the computer, and it dawns on me, I show everything but the inside, and so we're doing this a little bit after the fact. This old girl is done, and I wanted to show what we did on the inside here. We got one HG 2879 driving 4 HG 2879s. I went through and I used metal clads, and boy, I had a heck of a time figuring out the capacitance for the inside of this thing. It did not want the same amount of capacitance as the other la-900 I got. I mean, I put it wants because the transistors are a little different. Okay, sorry, busy day all over the place. The other one had 330 puff at like 1 kV across the outputs of the transistors, and then up here on top it had an additional like 1,780 or 80, 1,100 and 1,000, shoot, what was it? 1,680 puff, but they had it spread over 3 caps up here at the top, on the top of the output transformers. I created that. I went and I dug through the miscellaneous drawer, and I happened to have 2 330 puff 1 kV caps, which are a little bit bigger. Then I was able to create the capacitance loading on the output transformers. It didn't want that. At first, I pulled the 330s off, and it came way up. And then I added the 330s back to the top of the transformer, and it went down. I went, okay, it doesn't want that. So what we have here is 2 stacked 750 puff 5 kV metal clads. They'll never break down, because like I said, this box runs a little hot. Just they run hot. There's no air cooling on the inside of this thing at all, so you have to think this, one, everything is going to be hung upside down, and 2, the inside of this is going to get warm. So you know, it wanted 1,400, 1,500 puff, 15, yeah, 1,500 puff worth of capacitance on each one of the output transformers, and then it took right off. It made really good power, as you'll see in the next segment. A bunch of little stuff that we went through and we did, like the fan. On the stock one, they've only got a choke on the ground wire, oddly enough. And then the wire that runs through the deck for the fan was made of boon-end rubber, basically PVC, the same thing that's, believe it or not, this is a form of PVC. This is a form of PVC. Okay, this isn't too temperature tolerant, this wire, and it goes up to the on-off switch. So I went ahead and I replaced it with a piece of Teflon. And this is after we cleaned it, of course. But I mean, it is literally put together with really good parts, and this thing works. I mean, it really, really works. If I wanted to kick it up a little bit more, there would be some changes I would change over here in the driver's section. But being that the heatsink is so small and there's not a lot of airflow inside of it, I figured I would just shoot for more along the lines of stock, and that's what we were wanting. And that's the guy that wants to buy this that asked me if I could ever put my hands on one. He called me. He's called me like 5 times now. If you can find one of the, I would give my left and right testicle, my second born child, my stairway to heaven, the whole 9 yards, right? I'm like, okay, well, I'll go out and I'll find you one. And if he doesn't want it, like, I'm sure he's going to watch this video. And if he's not interested in getting it, I'm going to put this up for sale through my Facebook group, BBI Amps on Facebook. And somebody out there is going to snap this thing right up. But I'm basically doing it for him. And I'm not saying his name. He knows who he is, and he's going to call me. But that's what the inside of this thing looks like. I put it all the way back together stock, and it runs really, really good. Okay, let's segue into the next bit. Let's go run it a little bit. Wake up this morning and I think I'm coming down with a cold. Oh, yep, there, my ears just unplugged. Well, gentlemen, here we go. This is the la-900 in all of its beauty and fauna and I just hate working on these things. But I got one guy out there that has been bugging the holy bejesus out of me for one of these things. He's like, man, I'll pay you whatever. And I'm like, dude, you don't want to know what it's going to cost for me to build you one of these things, because I got to go find one, right? And then I'll put it together, and then you're going to come along, you're going to have to pay me. I want to hear the Brinks truck going beep, 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 beep. It's backing up my shop driveway, you know what I mean? Okay. Preamp is working. Now this thing is quiet. I mean, it's quiet. Compared to, I just remember this one being really loud, that's all. Okay, I'm wrong. I can take that on the chin like a freaking UFC champion, no problem. All right, so let's look around. You got a 1,000 watt slug and peak, and we can see all the switches on the side. The peak switches up, the averages or the multipliers in 1. 1,000 in average, 5 watt slug and reverse back from the bird, 10,000 watt dummy load. So we're going to start out in low. We're also going to flip the AM switch up. Okay. Ugh. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. If you didn't notice, the transmit light's not blue. The reason it's blue is because the red one didn't make it. It just didn't make it. When I went and I put the board in here, it broke a couple of the legs, and I think it might have broke something up inside the plastic housing that holds the LED in place. And I like blue. But otherwise everything else tests out perfectly. So I went in there and I put a blue light in it. If it's super important to the mystery man that wants this amplifier, I'll go in here and I'll put a red LED in it for you. Hello, audio. I will do that. Not a problem. Okay. Everybody happy? Happy. Happy. All right. Amp off. We're on 12 volts. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're barely driving this thing. Amp on. Now we're on low. Hello. 500 watts. Medium. Hello. 600 watts. High. Hello. Right around 600 watts still. So now, let me come down here. Turn on the power supply. Low. Low. Medium. Low. And high. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Hello. About 850 to 900 watts, depending on how hard you drive it, and depending on your voltage. So 14.5, easy 900 watt box. I've had some of these make way more than that. It just all depends on a bunch of little variables. I mean, I had one when I was a kid. Of course, I can't use that as a valid point of data. What I was getting at is I had one as a kid that would do like 1,300 watts, but then again, I was reading that on a dozy watt meter, and me of all people should know better. I mean, it's not like I was born and I had all this crap. I had to actually go out and make money and earn all of it for you all to look at. I didn't have this stuff when I was a kid. I had a triple beam dozy watt meter that ended up blown into what I thought was a friend of mine. I'd never seen again. Damn thieving stitches. Okay, this thing's perfect. Now I'm gonna go rustle up some screws for the cabinet because they've got to be fairly light. These were held on with pop ribbits. Bink. We're not gonna pop ribbit it back on. We're gonna put screws on it. So all switches down. All switches down. I'm gonna go rustle up some screws for the case, but I am technically done with this. Oh, shoot, shit, shart, fart on us. Back on high, put that on AM. Our input reflag. How dare I? What is wrong with me? Gosh darn, it's not like I haven't done 6,000, 7,000 of these at one point. 1, 2, yeah, that's my input SWR. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, hello. Check out our pass-through. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's perfect. Okay, radio off. Amplifier off. Camera back down in frame. Well, this is the end of this road. This long, dark, lonely highway that we've all been on together. Oh, now, if you guys don't mind, I appreciate every single one of you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm gonna go be sick now. And you're probably not going to hear from me until Monday, because today is Friday, and you guys might get to see this video on Monday. Never mind. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you. Bye-bye.